Welcome to Live DAF, your online DAF Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's DAF Hayomi Maseches KIDDUSHIN Yud Aleph. We have reached the 10th line from the top of the Amud, right at the 2 dots. Bekesef. We have learned in the Mishnah. One way to be Mekadesh an Isha is by using kesef, either a coin or something which has value. Now, how much value do we need? We have a machlekes. Beis Hillel maintain, well, it's not much different than anywhere else in the Torah. Where kesef is required, then what's the minimum, bare minimum, which constitutes money? Pruta, right? The coin of the least value, pruta, or something which has equivalent value to a pruta or shava pruta. Perhaps it's included in the local Moshe Sinai of shiurin, measures, values, discussed in Maseches Eruvin and elsewhere. These things were brought down from Moshe Rabbeinu, through Moshe Rabbeinu from Har Sinai, and that's Beis Hillel's approach to Kiddushin as well. You'd like to be Mekadesh with kesef? Sure. Pruta or shava pruta. Beis Shammai disagree. Beis Shammai Eimer? No. Way more than that. You need a dinar, a coin of much higher value, or something worth that much. Why? Why would Beis Shammai stipulate that higher value is needed in terms of kesef kiddushin? Why is it different than any other kesef requirement in the Torah where certainly a pruta suffices? The Gemara will present no less than 4 ways to explain Beis Shammai. Number 1, Amar Rabbi Zera. It's a mentality. Beis Shammai maintain that women are not willing to accept less than that. They have too much self-worth to accept merely just a pruta. Amar Rabbi Zera shekain isha makpedes al atzma. Isha is particular regarding her kavod, her honor. Vein beino miskadeshes b'pachas b'dinar. She'll take no less than a dinar for kiddushin. Amar le Abaye responds to Rabbi Zera. So you mean to say it's all relative to the person and his perspective upon himself and upon his value? So then it depends who you're speaking to. Perhaps for one woman, dinar suffices, but for the other one, you need way more. All depends on how they regard themselves and their worth and their value. Imagine the daughters of Rabbi Yana. He was a very wealthy man. A pruta to them, a dinar to them is not worth much. The kaptan and ashayu, they're particular about themselves. They don't take less than tarkeva, which is 3 kav, trei v'kav, 2 and 1, 3 pounds of coins. So so the standards go up. So in that case as well, any less than that doesn't work. And let's say let's say one of those women of Rav Yanai's wealthy family accepts kiddushin of a dinar. The pashta yada v'kibla chad zuzah miachar. She puts out her hand and accepts just merely 1 measly zuz. Doesn't work because she's from that family who have higher standards. Hachanami d'le'ava kiddushin. Is that what you mean to say? It's all personal. It's all custom. It's all relative to your perception of yourself and your value, which is pretty hard to believe. That if she goes ahead and accepts the zuz, it shouldn't work. But according to Rabbi Zera, that's a fact. And Mepharshim explained, because even though she may have decided to make an exception for herself this time and accept the zuz, but we know that whenever you deviate from the norm, we say batlo datay. It's a kol adam. Your mindset becomes nullified, becomes irrelevant relative to the accepted norms. And if in her circles, in wealthy circles, you don't accept less than this huge amount of money, well, if she accepted less, it shouldn't work, right? Amalei, so Reb Zera responds to Abaye, you know what, I agree to a certain extent, but I disagree in a way, because Pashta Yada V'Kibla, Like, I mean, I never discussed such a case where she actually went ahead and accepted less than that. Of course, that's certainly a raya, a gilui das. It's a pretty clear indication that she's okay with less, and that's okay. You can also accept less. It's not like it's all or nothing, right? Kikamina, when I was giving my explanation why Beis Shammai requires a dinar, or likewise, Rabbi Yanai's daughters would require three kav of dinar, well, they didn't know. They didn't know what to expect. The kitcha balayla. It was nighttime. It was dark. She didn't know what he was giving her. Inami or the Shavi shliach. She made a shliach to accept that money, and she wasn't there. So in that case, yeah. The only way it works is if you give her something of significance. Ordinarily a dinar, or in this case, a bante de Rav Yanai, according to Rashi's Pshat, you have to give 3 kav of dinar, which suits their standards. Tesis disagrees. He says that ultimately, even bante de Rav Yanai don't have their own shiurim. It's unrealistic that to suggest that every family, every person has his own standards, his own shiurim. But what he meant to say was that if she's unaware of what he's giving her, he needs to give her a dinar, because that's that's the assumed value for the isha. She wouldn't accept less than that. So even Bante de Rav Yanai go with that. Sort of a uniform standard for all. So that's the difference in Rashi and Taisus. But ultimately, Reb Zera's pshat in Beis Shammai still stands. Why a dinar? Says Reb Zera, because she's not willing to accept less. It's degrading, it's unbecoming to her to just accept a mere pruta for kiddushin. You have to give her something chashib, at least a dinar. Pshat number 2. Rav Yosef Amar, Tamayu de Beis Shammai. You know why Beis Shammai require a dinar? A silver dinar? Not just a copper pruta? K'd Rav Yehuda Amar Rav Asi. It's based on the following halacha. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav Asi. Kol kesef ha'amar b'Torah. Whenever we find a mentioning of the term kesef throughout the Torah, you know what type of currency we're speaking about? Kesef tzuri. It's describing a certain type of currency which was minted in Sur. I believe that's somewhere in Lebanon. And this currency and this value system was in place during Matan Torah. And subsequently, everything mentioned in the Torah works with that system. Shel Devreim Kesef Medina, as opposed to any mentioning of currencies and monies in the Torah Sheba'al Peh and the Mishnayos and etc. It's going to be referring to a lower level currency of lower value, your local currency Kesef Medina, which actually the Gemara later tells us is only worth an eighth. So a dinar of local currency is worth only an eighth of the dinar of Kesef Tzuri. So based on this, says Rav Yosef, let me explain to you why Beis Shammai required a dinar for Kiddushin. Because you cannot suggest a pruta is enough. There's no existence of a copper pruta within the Kesef Tzuri currency system. That's out. It's not an option. So theoretically, you can use perhaps a ma'ah, which is also part of the Tzuri system, a silver ma'ah. But Rashi says, we assume, if a pruta is not eligible, alma midi de chashiva, says Rashi. Boy, apparently you need something which has more meaning, more value, something significant. And the Chachamim, Beis Shammai, determined that it must be at least a dinar. You can't just use the smallest coin. You need something chashiv. And apparently it means something more than just, bare minimum, which was set at a dinar. Okay. Gufa, let's just go back and explain this phrase that we just learned, this formula about Kesef Tzuri versus Kesef Medina, which sort of takes us off on a little tangent, and then later we'll come back with 2 additional explanations as to Beis Shammai's reasoning, why a dinar is required for Kiddushin. Gufa, let's go back and review. Amar Rav Asi, Kol Kesef ha'amar b'Torah Kesef Tzuri. right? Kesef in the Torah is referring to the higher value currency. V'shel Devreim Kesef Medina. Whereas Kesef mentioned throughout the Mishnayos and Gemara is a lower value coin. But Kesef in the Torah is Kesef Tzuri, which is comprised of real silver. You need something which is made of silver as opposed to copper coins. Uklolahu, really? Is that a set rule that the term Kesef mentioned in the Torah is dafka Kesef, something made of silver, or something that has the value of that silver coin? Uklalu, really? Navakasha. Aritaina. There's halacha pertaining to claims. So Reuven has a claim against Shimon, and Shimon, well, he doesn't totally deny it, he partially admits. That's called Maide b'miktsas, a partial admission. In which case, he has to go swear, because there's something funny, something fishy about his response. Varitana. The pasuk describes it as follows: Reuven hands over kesef, very important, kesef, oikelim, or utensils, lishmar, for safekeeping. Comes back to retrieve it. Well, he admits to part of it. The Torah says he has to make a shvuah to substantiate his claim. The Shimon, right? The one who's partially denying, he has to go and make a shvuah to back up his partial, denial. Utanan, and the Mishnah tells us further, meaning how much value, what's the minimum to trigger this process? Even a penny, even a nickel, how much? Shvuas dayanim, we only impose, dayanim, the judges only impose this type of shvuah when it's a substantial claim that has this, partial response, partial admission. Shvuas dayanim, hatana shtei kesef, the claim must be at a minimum pertaining to something that has 2 kesef of value. Okay, so either he tells him, I gave you 2 silver coins, or something that has value of 2 silver coins. V'aidosh have a pruta, and he must admit to at least a pruta of that claim. So the question is like this: how did we get to this amount, to this requirement, to this standard of shtei kesef, hatana shtei kesef? Well, the Torah says, ki yitin ishal re'eu kesef. Now, if kesef just means silver, right? Like we said before, with working with a silver currency, higher standard currency. So who says you need 2? Where did the Chachamim derive this halacha that you need shtei kesef? The claim must have pertained to 2 ma'os of kesef, says Rashi. How do we know that? It says kesef, silver, maybe just 1 silver coin. Oh, so the fact that the Chachamim interpreted it in this fashion, the minimum is 2 kesef, indicates to us that no, when the Torah says the word kesef, it doesn't necessarily mean literally silver. The reserve kesef necheshes, gold, silver, copper. Kesef can mean silver, or can mean money. This halacha indicates to us that kesef isn't necessarily a reference to silver. Otherwise, you would need 2 silver pieces. Rather, we're speaking about a reference to money. Rashi says, "Mamoina ba'alma kapit." The Torah is simply presenting kesef as a reference to money. And since the Torah did not specify how much money, we say the Torah must have left it up to the Chachamim, the Chachmei HaMishnah and Chachmei HaTalmud, to interpret that for us. We have it over here, we have it in Ma'id Katan. Many times the Rishonim explain that many times the Psukim leave things a bit unclear, and it was actually delegated to the Chachamim to explain, to specify, to detail it to us. Such as in this case. Kesef means an amount of money. How much? Chacham decided for some reason this is the minimum, this is the bare amount. Shtei kesef. So what does that tell us? That kesef isn't necessarily a reference to silver or silver coins, which is inconsistent with Rabbi Yehuda Marvasi, who says any kesef in the Torah is inevitably a reference to Kesef Tzuri, the Kesef Tzuri system, which feature silver coins as opposed to copper coins. So he's learning Kesef means literally silver. And here we say, no, Kesef is just a reference to money, not necessarily silver. Answers the Gemara, no. Perhaps Kesef is simply a reference to silver. Question was, how did we get two? Why did the Chacham require two? Shtei Kesef, Hosam Dumi the Kalim, because we compare it to the Kalim, which is plural. Kesef by Kalim, right? Ma Kalim Shnayim, Av Kesef Shnayim. Just like Kalim is two, Kesef needs to be 2 coins. And we learn a reverse comparison as well. Uma Kesef Davar Choshev, Av Kalim Davar Choshev. And just like Kalim in this pasuk, which are those 2 coins we spoke about, is something of significance, something of value. Af Kalim Davar Choshev, likewise, in order to trigger a shavua as a result of partial denial of a claim, it has to be a claim which has value, which has significance. Rashi says, as opposed to, here, what about my 2 needles that you had, my 2 pins? And he denies it partially. That's not going to trigger a shvu. It has to be something of chashivas. Okay, so that's the answer to that question. How do you know 2? Because it says Lashon Rabin. Next question. What about the halacha of pidyon maser sheni? So the maser sheni produce at times will be redeemed. The kedusha will be transferred to money, which ultimately will be transported to Yerushalayim to be spent on foodstuffs. Vari maser l'chsev tzarta kesef biyadecha. Pasuk refers to the kesef used to redeem the maser sheni. Bring it up to Yerushalayim. Utanan, and you would think that kesef means silver, as we just said. And what does the Mishnah say? You can use copper as well. You can use prutois. Utanan apurit sela mimois maser sheni. So this fellow has some prutois of maser sheni money. He wants to convert it to silver. How does he do it? We have a whole discussion, the Mishnah in maser sheni, but pertaining to us, it's clear that you can use copper prutois as well. Well, the pasuk uses the word kesef, and according to Rabbi Yehuda Ravasi, he means silver, strictly silver. Answers the Gemara. Kesef ha-kesef riba. Instead of saying kesef, it says v'tarta ha-kesef. Ha-kesef is an additional letter, which is marbe. You can use other currencies as well. Ari hegdish. What about redeeming hegdish? There as well, it says uchsiv v'nosna kesef v'kamli. V'amar Shmuel says you can use copper prutis as well. Hegdish shave moneh shechillel shave pruta mechulol. Interesting halacha. You take hegdish property worth a huge amount, money, which is 100 dinar, and you convert it. You transfer that kedusha on something of very little value. Even a shava pruta, it works. And this is discussed. The Gemara there's no concept of shortchanging hegdish. Okay, in any case, we see that you can use a pruta for pidyon hegdish, despite the fact that the pasuk mentions kesef, nasana kesef. Answers the Gemara, hasamnami kesef yelvi maser sheni. We have a gzera shava, we connect hegdish to maser, and just like by maser it works, hegdish it works as well. So these are exceptions. Oh, now comes kiddushin. Arei kiddusha isha. What about b'mekadosh an isha? Tichsiv ki yikach isha ubala. Right? So you acquire the isha. How? One method is money. How? How do we know that? Through the Gzera Shava, the connection of Gomar Kicha Mistei Ephron. We learned that Gzera Shava, the connection to the field that Avram Avinu bought, where it says Kesef, Nasati Kesef Asada Kachmimeni. So the term Kesef is used to describe Kiddushay Kesef of an Isha Utanan, and we have in our Mishnah that according to Beis Hillel, you don't need silver coins, you can use copper coins, you can use a pruta. Utanan Beis Hillel, I remember pruta, B'Shava pruta. Neimer Ravasi, Damar Ki Beis Shammai D'min Ravasi, who established that silver rule regarding any time it says kesef is not going with Beis Hillel, it's going like Beis Shammai, which is a little hard to believe because typically we follow Beis Hillel. In fact, we say Beis Shammai b'mokim Beis Hillel ain't a Mishnah, it's not reckoned with at all. So it's a bit difficult to assume that Rav Asi was in line with Beis Shammai, not Beis Hillel. Says the Gemara, you're right. Elai itmar chi itmar. Beis Shammai, in fact, will hold that any reference to kesef in the Torah is strictly silver related, and that's why they established dinar as the minimum for kiddushin, the silver dinar. But in terms of Rav Yehuda Rav Asi, he wasn't going with that track. Eloi itmar, hachi itmar. If we learned the halacha, it was as follows: Amar Rav Yehuda Rav Asi, kol kesef kotzav. We add one word, kotzav, a set amount. Whenever we have a stipulated amount, a number in the Torah, kol kesef kotzav amar b'Torah. When the Torah gives us an exact amount of money, not just kesef, but 50 selah, 50 shekel, right? It's a reference to kesef tzuri. We need that better currency. V'shal devreim kesef medina. When we find kesef throughout the Divrei Chazal, it's the lower level currency. Ma'kamash malon. The question is, what's Rav Yehuda Rav Asi coming to teach us here? We have it in the Mishnah. Tanina, right? Chamesh shleim shel ben. The 5 selah needed to redeem your firstborn son. Shleishim shel ev. The 30 kesef used to compensate the owner of a slave who was killed by this other person's ox. Chamishim shel ein shel mafata. All these penalties of 50 coins that this perpetrator who interacted forcibly with an isha or convinced her will pay. Umei shel metzis shemra. The 100 that the husband who actually propagated a false rumor about his wife has to pay. So all these payments, all these penalties, kulam b'shekel HaKodesh, monatzuri. Mishnah clearly says that all these which are kesef katsuv, set amounts established by the Torah, needs to be paid out using shekel HaKodesh. B'monatzuri, of which there are 24 shekel in a monatzuri. So a monatzuri is that higher value currency we spoke about, which contain 100 dinar per money, and a shekel HaKodesh has 4 dinars, so it's 25 shekel per monatzuri, and that's the currency you have to use. So what's Rav Yehuda Rav Asi's chiddush? It's a Mishnah, it's a clear Mishnah. That's the money you pay. The answer is, V'shel devreim kesef medina tzrichle. You're right, the first part wasn't a chiddush, it's known from that Mishnah, but the second part was actually a chiddush, that other money is discussed in Mishnayos and Torah Sheba'al Peh can work with the lower value money. The Leitanan, because that's not a clear Mishnah, and that's why he had to come teach us that. Now, where do we find an example of monies discussed in the Mishnayos, not discussed in the Torah? The Sanyo or the Snan, Hatakeh Chavera. This fellow blew into his friend's ear and embarrassed him. What is that going to entail? What kind of compensation does he have to pay? Additionally, Selah. He has to give him a Selah, which was the amount determined by the Chachamim to be your average, fair, compensation for embarrassing him. So we have the Lashon Selah in a Mishnah. It could mean 2 things. Don't think it's the Selah discussed before, which contains 4 zuzi, which is actually the same as Shekel HaKodesh. That's the monatzuri reference to Selah. No. Ella, my Selah, the Selah mentioned in this Mishnah for blowing in his friend's ear and embarrassing him, Palga de zuzi, that's a half a zuz. So it's actually an eighth of the Selah tzuri. Selah tzuri contains 4 dinar. This is going to be half a coin. The avidi inchi dekara the palga de zuzi istira, because it is commonplace to actually refer to a half a zuz as istira, as a selah. That's a selah medina. So bottom line is, we find the halacha of a payment in the Mishnayos, which does not entail paying that higher value currency kesef tzuri. Rather, the selah over here is simply an eighth in value of the other selah. It's a half a zuz instead of the selah tzuri, which is actually 4 coins, 4 zuz or 4 dinar. I think it's the same thing. Okay, so bottom line is, we just completed that second shot. We had a kasha. Why do Beis Shammai require such a big amount for kiddushin? Why not just a pruta? The answer given is because the Torah refers to kiddushin kesef with the lashon kesef. Kesef, anyway, mentioned in the Torah is the kesef tzuri, the higher value currency which involves only silver coins, and a davar chashav in silver is a dinar. Now we had that formula presented by Rabbi Yehuda Marvasi. Any kesef in the Torah is kesef tzuri, any kesef in the Chachamim language is kesef, just kesef medina, just local currency, lower value currency. We had many kashas. We find Maser Sheni, we find all over all these places where it isn't necessarily restricted to silver. And we had tirutzim, we had drashes, which allowed us to sort of expand it and incorporate other forms of currency as well. But the truth is that ultimately we sort of changed that formula. It only applies to kesef kotsuv, only where the Torah presents a set amount, a precise number. So that perhaps would provide an answer to all those questions as well, because in those cases we don't have that set amount. And therefore we're free to use any type of money. Okay, here comes explanation number 3 in Beis Shammai. Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish Omer, Tamayu de Beis Shammai, Kedei Chizkiah. The reason why Beis Shammai require a dinar for Kiddushin, it's based on Chizkiah. Amar Chizkiah. Omar Akra. The pasuk is describing how an Amma Ha'ivriya, who's the Jewish maidservant who was sold by her father, how she goes out, how she goes free. There are many ways. Either when her 6 years are up, or she turns an adult, or there's something called the hefta, redemption. He gets a refund on the remaining balance of the unworked years, unused years, so to speak. So let's say he purchased her for $1,000 for $600 for 6 years of work, okay? And now it's 3 years running, and she wants to go free. Torah says, v'hefta, he should actually help her do so, meaning deduct. 3 years are gone, deduct those 3 years. So of the 600, take off 300, and as soon as she comes up with that amount, the remainder, 300, she hands it over to the master and she goes free. V'hefta, malamet shemegaras, it's called giroyin. Deduction. Malamet shemegaras mepidyoyin v'yoytza, she can reduce the amount required for redemption. Instead of giving him a full refund, deduct as per the amount of time she already worked by you. V'yoytza, and she goes free. So, in order for this to work, for this system to be feasible, there must have been the sale price, so to speak, the amount that he paid to acquire the Amma must have been greater than a pruta. In order to allow for the deduction system to work, you need to start with a big amount, deduct a certain amount, which will end up giving her a smaller balance, an amount of money, but less than purchase price, which is the required amount for pidyon, right? So this all makes sense if, when the fellow purchased the Amma, he had to pay at least a dinar. Hainu de megara ve'azla. So you can then deduct and reduce that amount by X amount of years or whatever that she worked, and you have a certain amount left that she has to give him for her redemption. Right? It's a large amount. It's a large enough amount of money that can be sliced and split up. Right? So she can deduct from that original sale price, and whatever's left over, even if it's a pruta, that's the amount she has to give him. Eli Amos the Yavla pruta, but if he started off only with a pruta, suppose initially he only bought her for a pruta, you can't cut a pruta in half. It's the smallest coin. The pruta mi megara, how can you deduct from a pruta? So if the Torah is incorporating this process, this Giroin Kesef process into the system of Amma Ivriya, inevitably you must have started off with a greater amount than a Pruta. Otherwise you can't, there's nothing to deduct from. So this teaches us that, yeah, you need to start off with a Pruta. Okay, how does that pertain to us? We'll see in a minute. We learn from there to Kiddusha Isha. We'll see in a minute. Ask the Gemara 1 second. I want to challenge your way of thinking. Your notion is that, Giroin Kesef is an inevitable part. It's a required element. It's a critical facet of this process. If there's no Giroin option, then there's no buying an Amma. Maybe the Torah is simply offering an option. If it's feasible. Initially, he paid a dinar. Okay, so you can do Giroin until you get to the Pruta. Like to go to club, but let's say he paid only a Pruta. You can do that. And you're right, in that case, you can't do Giroin because you can never deduct from that amount. No, says the Gemara. You can't suggest that there's a concept of purchasing an Amma Ivriya without the Giroin option. You know it's comparable to the Yud. Yud is the other system where instead of setting her free or doing the Giroin, he's actually going to choose the slave masters. The owner is going to choose to marry her. It's called Yud. So instead of giving her back her balance of whatever's left for the remaining years that will not work, they're not used, but I'll give it to you for Kiddushin. He's not actually giving it to her, but it's sort of applied. Instead of actually giving her a ring, that leftover balance, which she pretty much owes him for the unworked years, will now sort of belong to her in lieu of Kiddushin money. That's Yud, right? That's the Yud option that the Torah gives the Adain, the opportunity to marry her. So just like by Yud, it's a precondition, meaning you can only purchase an Amma that comes along with the Yud option, as opposed to a relative buying her. If you can't marry her, then he can't purchase her to begin with. Yud is an integral part of the sale of the Amma Ivriya. Duma the Yud, my Yud, just like by Yud, Avagav the Iboy miyayid, Iboy loy miyayid. Although, truthfully speaking, an Adin is never compelled to do Yud. It's up to him. It's a prerogative. It's his choice. He can choose to be miyayid, he can choose not to. But still, it must be an option. It must present as a possibility. If there is no possibility of doing Yud, suppose he's purchasing his relative, that sale is worthless. Same with our Giroin option. If there's no Giroin option, suppose we started with a too small amount of money which can never be distributed and cut down. Started with a pruta to begin with. There's nothing to deduct from it. The sale is worthless. So, having established that, that buying an Amma Ivriya requires an amount greater than a pruta, which enables that Giroin Kesef process to apply. Now let's take it a step further and bring it home to Kiddushin. The Kiddusha Isha, Lebeis Shammai, Naf Gelu Amma Ivriya. Beis Shammai learn Kiddusha Isha. The amount required for your ordinary Kiddusha Isha of Kesef is derived from the amount needed to purchase an Amma Ivriya. Ma Amma Ivriya b'pruta loy, just like you cannot purchase an Amma Ivriya with a pruta, as just explained. B'pruta loy miknaya, af Isha b'pruta loy mikacha. Likewise, you can't be mikacha Isha with leshon pruta. And the way Rashi explains it, Rashi on the 5th line, af Isha b'pruta loy mikacha, says Rashi de gamrina mikiddusha yud. Rashi take it a step further. We're not just going to the amount required to purchase the Amma to begin with. That's been established, but as I just explained, the Amma Ivriya also has the Yud option, right? And as we explained, the Yud utilizes the transaction money, the money used to buy the shivcha to begin with, right? And as we just explained, you can't be involved with a pruta, because a pruta doesn't allow for deductions. So apparently he was in it for more than a pruta. And the yud utilizes that money as well. Because remember, that money sort of gets transferred, gets converted to kiddushin money, in the case of Amavriya. Right? Any outstanding balance now gets transferred and is used as kiddushin money. So just like over there, we see that a pruta cannot be used for this type of kiddushin, this yud, which is sort of a type of kiddushin, it's a certain brand of kiddushin, so to speak. So any kiddushin as well requires more than a pruta. So in a nutshell, that is Beis Shammai's limud. Amar Avriya needs more than a pruta, ordinary kiddushin as well. Says the Gemara, but I understand you need more than a pruta. But who says a dinar? A dinar is sort of going far now. Ve'ema palga the dinar. Maybe a half a dinar. Ve'ema shtei prutas, maybe 2 prutas. That allows for deductions. You buy it for 2 prutas and they go down to 1. Answers the Gemara, Kivan. Da fikte mi pruta ukma dinar. Well, once we left the pruta territory, says Rashi, al macha shivusa ba'inan, apparently the Torah requires something of value, something of, it gives her honor, something that's reflective of her real worth, of her real value, something more than just, a penny. And therefore, ukma dinar, Chacham interpreted that it's inevitably going to be referring to a better coin, a dinar coin, which is, a step up, a couple of steps up. You have the ma in between, but apparently the dinar was considered more chashiv, and that's what the Torah had in mind. And that's the minimum for purchase of the amma, for kiddushay isha, according to Beis Shammai. Here comes shot number 4 in Beis Shammai. Rava Amar. It's the Rabbanim who are concerned about the isha's honor. Hainu taima de Beis Shammai. Why do Beis Shammai require more than a pruta? Shelo yu bnei Yisrael kehefker. It shouldn't appear like Jewish women are just worthless. And Rashi says, about 8-9 lines from the top, the kehefker, liknois bedavar muad. You can't just acquire an isha, for a penny. It's not honorable, it's not respectful. Umid Rabbanu du ka'amri lo Beis Shammai. So Beis Shammai is based on the Rabbanon, who are concerned about protecting their honor. Daf k'inu Rabbanon, the kiddushin apchusin midina. Rabbanon have the ability to uproot, to nullify any kiddushin which involves money worth less than a dinar. It has to be respectful, it has to be honorable. Anything less than that doesn't work. Okay, so bottom line is, how much kesef is required for Kiddush Isha according to Beis Hillel? A pruta, like anywhere else in the Torah, where the minimum amount of kesef is a pruta. According to Beis Shammai, you need a dinar or shava dinar. Why? We have 4 pshatim. Either the Chachamim estimated, assumed, they praised the das of an Isha, she's unwilling to accept less than that. It's below her dignity, we need at least a dinar. That's the das of the Isha. Pshat number 2 was, the term kesef refers to currency which only contains silver, as opposed to the copper coins. Pshat number 3, we learn from the Amma Ha'ivriya, where there again, pruta cannot be used to purchase Amma Ha'ivriya, and the 4th pshat is Rava, Shelo yu bnei Yisrael kehefker, to give honor and prestige to the bnei Yisrael. All the best to you, and halach and atzlacha Rabba.